This short documentary is about the lack of diversity in the Detroit Red Wings. To start off with some general history, the Detroit Red Wings started off as an expansion team in 1926 from British Columbia before moving to Detroit. They won their first two Stanley Cup titles in 1936 and 1937 and have won the Cup 11 times total, which is more than any other American team in NHL history. To cite the article Black Ice by George and Darrell Fosty, at the time, those who controlled the Challenge Cup controlled hockey, creating a bourgeoisie sport that by its very nature would fail to recognize the contributions from black hockey players, Detroit Red Wings included.
A significant part of the Detroit Red Wings history in regards to diversity is player John Udadale. John Udadale was the first African-American player to be signed by the Detroit Red Wings and the entire NHL as a whole. This opens the door for many more African-American players to continue their career as a professional hockey player. In 2024, the African-American population in the NHL is 3.74%. Moving over to today, the Detroit Red Wings as an organization has a team that celebrates diversity, equity, and inclusion for everyone, including their fans, players, and team. This includes Hispanic heritage, disability, pride, Asian Pacific Islander, Arab American, women's, and Black history.
Social science analysis of the Detroit Red Wings. The lack of diversity within the Detroit Red Wings has been very prevalent for many years. However, the team has come a long way. We can relate this to the history of ice hockey that was spoken about in class because it highlights the fact that African Americans have been segregated and excluded from the history and progress of hockey, which is not due to a socioeconomic difference, because skates at the time when ice hockey started to get more prevalent were priced for the average person, so they were not too expensive for certain demographics. It is apparent that the fact that back when ice hockey was first recorded, the white historians only documented the game of white players and disregarded the other games, and it wasn't until 1895 that the first CHL, also known as the Colored Hockey League, game was recorded. Although there were two different leagues, it is a well-known fact that the CHL was just as good and if not better at the game. Those players are also the reason for the change of style in the game that people see today in the NHL.
Historically, hockey and teams like the Detroit Red Wings have excluded marginalized communities with factors like class and race influencing the sport into being white-dominated. With this being said, the history of hockey both globally and in the Detroit Red Wings will highlight the central theme used throughout the presentation, which is diversity and inclusion. Specifically, we will be talking about the lack of diversity within the sport and the possible reasons for this outcome and what factors influence these issues. According to ESPN, the NHL conducted their first diversity and inclusion report in 2022 and found out that their workforce is 84% white, and as for the players, 7% of NHL players are visible minorities, which includes Asians, Latinos, Arabs, Native Americans, and Black people. These statistics are a representation of the lack of diversity within the professional hockey leagues and their players, and emphasizes our essential theme. In the Detroit Red Wings specifically, one of their only black players, Giovanni Smith, battled racism all throughout his hockey career leading up to the introduction of him in the Detroit Red Wings in 2016. He recalled times where he was told that he was playing the wrong sport, or other racist insults that were thrown at him during games by other players. The lack of diversity within teams isolates players and can place a target on their back, thus showcasing the importance of diversity. Overall, this presentation will do a deep dive on the Detroit Red Wings and the complex issues surrounding diversity in a sport that does not have a lot of representation compared to other sports.